Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Random Heathen Ramblings podcast, where we discuss all sorts of things Germanic heathenry related. My name is Jesse, and I am your host. Let's get into it.
RHR Workshop is dedicated to the old ways, offering a wide selection of animist ritual supplies, divination tools, altar goods, and home decor, including premium reindeer hides imported from traditional herders in northern Finland. Whether you're just starting your spiritual journey or looking to expand your collection with a custom drum, we have everything you need. Visit our online store at fjalvatir.com and discover the beauty of mountain spirit.
Hail and good evening, everybody, and welcome to not only this week's episode of the Random Heathen Ramblings podcast, but our monthly little live stream wherein I get to interact with all of you fine folks listening and watching here on Facebook and YouTube. So wherever it is that you're watching, go ahead and drop a comment down below. We've already got a few folks doing so. We got Michael Thacker. Thank you, Michael, for being the first live commenter, followed right behind by Voodoo Viking over here on YouTube. So both of you fellas there, thank you very much for your support and for being here tonight to listen to the ramblings a bit and answer your questions, talk about topics that might be on your mind and some other people's minds. We've got something that came through about a month ago over on my Patreon chat that we're going to be getting into today. Kind of one of those topics that we probably all think about a bit. It's not really particularly like, the heathen religion or anything like that, or faith or folkway or whatever, but more or less just how we behave in the world around us that, or how we could be potentially impacted by other behavior in the world around us. So, hello to David Klin. Good evening. Glad that you're able to catch this too, man. It's always good to see your name pop up here on the screen. So, I hope you're doing well down there in Columbia, Tennessee. So if this is your first time watching, if you guys are just tuning in and you're catching the live on either YouTube or Facebook, and this is your first time catching it, these are monthly things. They're usually around the second or third Monday of every month. So if you want to put that little tidbit in your calendar, mental calendar there, just look for them every month. I usually put an event thing up there on Facebook, and then I always try to announce it about within the week or so prior over there on YouTube. And if you are new to the channel, please check out my Linktree link that should be posted in the video description of this live stream. It's got all of my stuff, all the social medias, the website for the podcast, and the Patreon thing, which is scrolling down across the bottom of the screen here, to catch my regular video podcast every week. Aside from the little clips and highlights that I share, catch the full video version over on my Patreon page. It's $1 pledge or $1 and some change. I don't know. I think the platform has adjusted for, I don't know, taxes or fees or something. I don't know. But it's like $1.50 if that. And it gives you access to my video shows. So, and you also get in-screen credits at the end of every show. So you'll get a little thing that pops up that has your name on it and the tier at which you pledge. So check all that stuff out, patreon.com/MidgardMusings, or just click on the Linktree link that's in the video description, and it'll take you right there. Voodoo Viking says he's mighty fine, and so said every lady I've ever been with. Well, I hope it was true. I rarely bite, however, that one time at band camp. There's always that one time. There's always that one time at band camp. There was always the French horn, or the tuba or whatever it was, the trumpet. I don't know. Various things happen at band camp that we do or do not talk about. But yeah, I hope you're all doing well tonight. Thank you for being here. Anything that pops up that you want to talk about or have questions about, feel free to let me know. But we're just gonna really kind of just jump right into it here shortly. I do just want to say that this past weekend in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, matter of fact, it was just yesterday at the time of this broadcast, um, which is Monday, of course. So yesterday on Sunday, um, had a bunch of people show up to a local park in the city where we had a Sigerblot celebration. So that was fun. It was more just to the untrained eye or to the passersby. It was just a family cookout. A bunch of people sitting around having food. But there was some clues and hints of things like a table with some god pieces and some incense burning and things like that as an altar. And there were people gathered around for our little ritual that we did just to kind of commemorate the importance of our victory sacrifice, our victory bloat this year. So that was my first time actually doing a public bloat, or I wouldn't say it's a bloat, but my public ritual. You know what I mean? And so it was new territory for me to venture into. I've only ever done things of that nature with my closed off kind of people who I know, and in places where I'm more comfortable. So either in the privacy of my yard or in a more very rural setting or area where there's no outside eyes. You know what I mean? So to be in a public park where there are other families and other people enjoying the day, because it was a beautiful day in Tennessee, in Middle Tennessee yesterday. It was bright sunny skies, a nice breeze blowing, in the 70s, just a perfect day to be outside and enjoying it. So everybody else, in the community that were out that day are seeing, me kind of wearing what I wear, the tunic, and we got, a bunch of people gathered around this table, and we're, you know, it's very obvious that we're doing something of a kind of spiritual or even maybe religious nature. But thankfully, nobody bothered us. Like, it was nobody disrespected our time, which I was relieved for. Because again, having never done anything like this in a public way, I had my reservations and I was a bit anxious. You know what I mean? And I didn't want that feeling to transfer into the ritual. I didn't want um, my worries or my fretting to impact how the ritual was done. So I took a lot of time in the day prior and even the day of to kind of just sit with my feelings and realize that there are things that are out of our control. There's things in our lives that are out of our ability to control anything. So to worry about the outcome of something like that is no good. It doesn't do well for my spirit, doesn't do well for the people around me, because that energy is felt and that energy is shared. you know Hey there, we got Skull It Works that just joined over here on YouTube. It says, greetings, what did I miss? Not a whole lot there, Blake. I'm just kind of telling people about the cigar bloat thing that I did yesterday in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. And just the sense of, I think I've talked a bit before about people have asked, like, can you hold ritual in a public space? And I've always been very reserved about that idea, because to me, setting sacred space and having ceremony and ritual like that, um, you know, should be done with the right people and in the right environment and all this kind of thing. And so I've had my reservations. So yesterday being my first time conducting a ritual, kind of leading that, presiding over a ritual in a public space, was new territory for me. So being nervous about it, having anxiety about it, I had to sit with those feelings and know how to process it and then release it and let it go and let what was to happen, do my best with it. And again, it worked out. It worked out fine. I asked for a lot of feedback from people, I asked for feedback from several people, saying, "Hey, how do you think it went? Anything I could have done better?" Right? I like to get that feedback, and I mean, I didn't get anything of a constructive criticism or anything. It was like, it was great for what it was and for what you were able to do. We definitely felt what you were trying to provide for us in the ritual and everything that you did. So I'm thankful for that. Um, Secret blow, yes, fire, 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 raining blood. Yeah, like a slayer, like Slayer, from a lacerated sky. So we couldn't do that. Obviously, we couldn't have blood. Um, Not even so much of the fact that it was in a public park, because if I had been able to obtain food grade, safe to consume, regulated animal blood, it would have been part of the ritual. Um, Not in any great amount. It would have been just a little sprinkle here or there. But I had fully intended on doing that, but I couldn't get any. None of the markets in the area, none of the butchers had it. I even asked, a couple international markets between here and Nashville. They didn't have it. That's a funny story. I went into one place, and I knew just from walking in, I'm like, nobody here speaks English, like, or at least it's not their native language. Because I walked in and I was, the whitest person in that mercado, in that mercado. So I was like, "Tú tienes sangre por comer," like, I don't know Spanish very well, but I'm like, I know blood and I know for eating. So I'm like, "Do you have blood for eating?" And they, no, 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 no. Okay, all right, bye, adios. um, so yeah, that was funny. To have to get in there and ask for that, but no, what I ended up doing was, I ended up making like a tea. I tried to collect as many of the herbs that are mentioned in the nine herbs charm to kind of make this infusion of a liquid. And I got most of them. Obviously there were some things that either weren't growing around here or that I just couldn't obtain. But I got probably more than half of the nine charms. I got probably about five or so of the mentioned nine charms, or something close to it. Not of the nine herbs of that charm, and let it kind of simmer and steep in a pot that morning. Transferred over into a bowl when we got there, and then used a sprig of cedar as the houtang to dip into it, and then bless the people with, and give them a blessing as I went through and did it. So it was nice, and everybody appreciated it, and everybody got something out of it. Scarlet Work says, I have. Oh yeah, I have that feeling as well every time that I hold ritual in my backyard. Hint, hint. No offense. Our backyard, where I live is it's a trailer park community, a nice one, but we're still next to another family's home with no privacy fence. We have a chain link fence to keep our pets in contained areas, but we don't have a privacy fence. So but they keep to themselves and they keep their blinds closed, so it works out well. Like what we do in that side of the house, we are respectful of other people, but we don't get super crazy, wild, and loud and disruptive. But I get it. It's a little bit different though when you're in like a public park and there's families of kids and other things going on around you. Voodoo Viking says that the few times that I've done public ritual, always went tits up. Well, I can't say that this time, or any time that you have something isn't, something could. There's always a potentiality for it. So I mean, just use it as a learning experience. Asian market sell food grade pig's blood in bricks. Yeah. But each state has its way. Yeah, we have. I mean, a lot of the international markets here do sell it. They just didn't have any. You know. Um, um, so they definitely cook with it. Like the Latin communities and the Asian communities definitely use it to cook with. It's a great ingredient to cook with. Just as as a thickener. You know what I mean? Something to help emulsify like a stew or whatever with. Um, yeah, Scarlet Ware says next door is a parking lot for an event center. Yeah, so you got a lot of activity and stuff going on there. What's Voodoo Viking saying here? Yeah, Asian markets usually sell food grade. Oh, okay, yeah. And then people have been using mead or alcohol instead of replacement of blood. So I didn't, because of the nature of mead especially. It's a lot of sugar or high sugar content. You know what I mean, with the honey it gets super sticky. And I didn't want with sprinkling people with mead, because I wanted something that I could bless people with. And if it was blood, obviously that can wash off pretty easily. But when you're talking about like mead and this, like sure, yeah, I guess you could wash it off. But I'm like, it's spring, almost summertime. The flies and just the bugs and stuff. I'm like, this is the last thing that people are going to want is if they get honey wine sprinkled on them, is to have to worry about feeling sticky and then bugs bother them and this or that. So I went with tea, which again, not traditional. But because of referencing the 9 herbs charm, I said, well, this is something that we can at least say that the meaning of these herbs, like the mugwort and the chamomile and the lamb's crest and the crab apple and you know uh, all the various things that are mentioned in the 9 herbs charm have various meanings for their use associated with them in a ritual sense. So maybe they weren't used for teas. However, it was my way of trying to incorporate that into the ritual, the meanings of everything, and explaining it to people what the importance of it was, and then giving them the chance to research it themselves and say, hey, learn something about what the 9 herbs charm is, um, and its significance to um, medicine and even ritual ceremony and things. Um, Scarlet or sorry, Voodoo Viking says made blood sausage, and that's when I've gotten blood. Yeah, blood sausage. It's delicious if you've never had it before, right? It's good stuff. And then Scarlet Works says alcohol is um, frowned upon in public spaces as well without a license. Yeah, and listen, like um, I did bring mead. I brought enough as the gift to the divine. That was our gift to the gods for Sigerbloat, because blood wasn't an option. Um, from a traditional sense, the blood usually being the offering of the animal that was consumed at bloat or during bloat. The blood was what the gift to the divine was. So we blessed the people with that tea mixed with some of the herbs mentioned in the 9 herbs charm, and then the gift to the gods was alcohol. We brought some of Raven Moon Hearth's mead and poured it into a bowl, and there was no consumption of it, but it was there for religious purposes, and it was kept in that um, context throughout the whole event. It was not out on a dining table. So even if, like, let's just say off a whim, like law enforcement wants to show up and give us crap about it, um, we had religious what do you call that uh, exemption, you know. So it was only just like a little bit, enough to pour into a small offering bowl. Um, yeah, blood and heat ain't much better. It does. It gets sticky. I mean, yeah, it's. I know. I've slaughtered plenty of cattle to know what blood gets like after it gets on you. So it all worked out actually pretty well considering. Um, yeah, it's an animal product. You know what I mean? So when it does warm up, it tends to turn and it smells not so nice. It stinks. So getting it on you and having to deal with it, it because we didn't have it available to us and it was being in a public park, it actually kind of worked out. I didn't say it kind of worked out well. It worked out perfectly. It was the right thing for us not to have blood in the public park. Um, Schizo over here on YouTube says that in my mind, your intention was known, and that's what was shared by everybody. That I asked for feedback about. It was appreciated, and the intentions of what I went through into doing this. I had a purpose in mind. I wanted to it's Sigerblow, right? So we want to celebrate our victory. So I wanted it more to be about that than about the various mechanics of the ritual. I wanted the ritual ceremony parts to mention, you know, we're as warriors seek victory in battle, and as farmers seek victory in their crops, and as travelers seek victory in their journeyings. Like we are also seeking victories over the struggles of our lives, and no matter what we're going through, right? Like let's celebrate those victories and use those wins to help us achieve even more and win more victories, and even the downfalls or the pitfalls or the things when times go tits up, as Voodoo Viking says, that we use those moments as opportunities to learn. You know, so um, it was very nice. To be able to serve the people that type of medicine. That type of experience, and to be there to partake of it with them. It was my first, again, public ritual. So um, it was an honor to be in the position to serve that type of thing and to be there to experience it with everybody. Anyways, going into kind of, let's say, the main topic of the show, but something that I wanted to breach as a topic here. This is one that might strike a lot of people because of their personal feelings. So feel free to chime in the comments if you want. But it came through as a comment from one of my patrons on Patreon. He also follows me here on Facebook, but I've redacted his last name just for the sake of anonymity. I very crudely redacted it. It's scribbled out, but I'm going to read it out loud because in case you miss it or you don't want to pause your screen or whatever after it's been up. Um, this gentleman was watching the anniversary podcast, so last month's live stream. I had a bunch of panelists to come on the show, a bunch of friends of mine and guests attend that live stream, and they were, like 4 or 5 of us all on screen together. And one of the things that came up during that topic was organizations, or just organization in general, right? Having order and organization in our heathen um, communities. And this prompted a question from Robert. And he's saying, with the radical rise of Islam, a religion that will kill us for our faith, do we need to be more organized? And I guess we meaning like heathens. And he says, many heathens whine. And I like how he put wine with, like as in the drink. But, complain or whine about Christianity. But Islam is another beast altogether. And I wouldn't necessarily disagree, with that sentiment. Um, but I'm going to tell you something. Any organized religion, and Christianity and Islam both have been known as being the power religions of the world. The more powerful religions of the world, because both religions have um, killed people for, or in the name of their God, in the name of their religion, you know. And it's really just a testament, I think, of what religion can do to people. On a much smaller scale, we've seen instances where you know people who claim to be heathens misappropriate and misuse symbols and figures of our lore and names of sagas and things and different, the symbols and all that to do things of a villainous nature, of a dishonorable nature. They hurt people, or they bring harm to people, to the point of killing them also, in the name of what they believe in. So, you know, the threat of organized religion, whether whatever you want to, and I don't know what kind of sparked this with the focus on Islam, more so than Christianity, because the heathenry never had a time, at least that I'm not aware of, that the Muslims were going after heathens to try and convert them to Islam. That was happening with Christians when the Christian Franks under Charlemagne, went to convert the Saxons during the Saxon Wars. It was violent. It was convert or die, and it was convert to Christianity. Nothing like that happened towards heathens from Muslims. But the Muslims have their own dark history and their dark parts. I'm very good friends with an Islamic gentleman who's also a content creator. He doesn't do religious or Islamic content. He's more of a food content creator type of person. But he's, I mean, he's very devout in his beliefs. I don't know how devout I mean, I don't want to speak out of turn with regards to how devoutly he practices. I'll just say that, on their holy tides, I'm always sending him acknowledgments, whether it's Ramadan or whether it's Ed or whatever it might be that I know is going on. I'll send an acknowledgement. Uh, he is a, white American man from West Virginia, and he speaks Arabic like fluently. Like, so he takes his religion seriously, at least enough to the point of learning the language. And he's the opposite of what you hear of a lot of in the negative media of Islamic radicals and stuff. And I think that's the operative word, right, guys? It's, any religion, no matter whether it's Christianity, whether it's Islam, whether it's these heathens, they're all radical extremists, and anybody that uses their religion to um, bring harm to others, they're poisoned. They've taken what their doctrine is and have twisted it. Now there are certain things. I think you study religion, you study theology enough, and you're going to find things about any doctrine that is abhorrible for modern context, or for any point in time, really. You think about, like, wow, like some of the stuff that you read about in the Christian Old Testament, or in Judaic text, some of the old Levitical laws and the old things from that period of time. It was brutal. It was terrible stuff. And it's been the cause of the reason why a lot of folks abandon those religions, and myself included. I won't shy away from that, admission, to say that one of the things that um, led me away from my upbringing in a sort of Christian worldview was reaching a point in my life where I stopped believing what I was told, and just being led blindly, just believing what I was being told. Started thinking for myself, and started researching for myself, and started, you know, uh, testing and proving things. After I got to a certain point, that there were certain things that just didn't sit right with me. And I was not met with answers that I felt were um, sufficient to justify the actions. Um, and I've talked a bit about it over the years too, because I mean, I'm going on about 10 years now of being a heathen. Um, and those early years, while my parents were still alive, and um, having them ask me about what I believed in, because it was obvious that I wasn't. I didn't come out and tell them one day, "Hey, guess what, mom and dad? I'm a pagan. I'm a heathen," because I knew how that was going to go. Based on my upbringing, I knew that those are the bad guys, right? For the Christians and stuff. And then what I believed in is that's not what you want to be labeled as or known as. So I'm like, I'm not gonna just openly tell them about it, but I'm also not going to be untrue to what I believe and what was calling to me and what I felt like I wanted to pursue. But when the inevitable day came for my parents to ask me a question, what do you believe in exactly? I couldn't lie. I didn't want to lie. I had to be honest. And I think, once that happened, and once they knew, they didn't want to be educated. They didn't want to know anymore. They heard the word heathen, they heard the word pagan, and they go, oh, you know, Jesse's the devil. Jesse's possessed. Jesse is the enemy now. And didn't matter what I was doing, the good works, the things that I was doing to help them. Um, it was, you don't believe what we believe anymore. You're not following Jesus Christ. You're not following God, and this and that. And so therefore, it doesn't matter what you're doing. And I couldn't. I asked. I said, I thought your doctrine says that, we are known by our works, and that faith without those works is dead. So what matters if what I believe doesn't exactly line up with your faith. I'm being known. I should be known by my works. And is my the works that I do, are they good or are they bad? If you're gonna be that absolute about things, if you're gonna deal in absolutes, you know, and you're gonna say that I'm evil, right? Because if I'm either good or evil, I'm either one or the other. There's no middle area with you guys. If I'm one or the other, then look at my works and judge me by my works. If you're gonna judge me, you know, or not judge me, but if you're gonna judge anything, judge the works I do, and do the works that I do. Are they good or are they not? And I never got a clear answer from them about that. So, I had to kind of accept the fact that it was, them against me. Um, Phoenix Samurai over here on YouTube just commented, I think that some organization can be a good thing for Norse paganism, especially since um, part of what we know is so fragmented. With that being said, watch the sources you select to learn from. Um, oh yeah, sorry to yeah. So I got your yeah. I saw a PPT, but I got the a lot. So yeah. I mean, like, and let's explore this. Let's explore the um the organization for Norse paganism, and this is one of those things where I don't like to split hairs too much with people, but I do want to make a differentiation between certain things. Norse paganism, that's its own thing. Germanic heathenry, that's its own thing. True is its own thing. Alcidu is its own thing. Foreign Save is its own thing. Um, Anglo-Saxon heathenry is its own thing. Theism, they're their own thing. You know what I mean? There's all these various components. So to put um, heathenry and lump it under one category, like it's yes, there's a lot of similarities. Yes, there are a lot of things that we speak a lot of the same language when it comes to the belief of the Norse gods, Germanic gods, right? Ancestor worship or veneration, the land spirits, or the whites or the Vatir. Like these are terms and these are things that we can all relate with. But there's certain things about Germanic heathenry, Germanic polytheism, Germanic paganism, I guess, that is not all the same. And so it needs to be the organization. I think that we're wanting to maybe see happen is that more of the groups that are doing what they're doing. So if the Ossatru people want to do what they're doing and they want to follow a Wiccan Wheel of the Year and whatever, then fine, all well and good, do your thing. And be organized with it, and to come together to form a coalition or a confederacy or a unification of things. There's just too much infighting that's going on. People talk about, Robert was talking about, organization and worrying about the other religions killing us or putting us down, and we're doing it to ourselves. Pagans are ruining themselves with the fickle BS that they fight about. Hey, he called me a name. She, said this to my husband. He smells funny. Whatever. It's all this fickle stuff that nobody wants to work through and get sorted. And it can be sorted rightly. It can be done. But nope, we're gonna just bicker and we're gonna fight. And then when these people over here want to fight and they can't agree, what are those people going to do? They're going to go over here to this other side of the town or the other side of the state or wherever, and they're going to make their own group where everybody else can get along and they can be all happy-go-lucky and this and that. Look, how are you going to be able to resolve conflict unless you're facing the conflict? So I'm not so much worried about the outside as I am about what's going on within and all this infighting. Scarlet Work says they try to stay away from mentioning belief names like pagan or heathen when someone asks me what I believe in, because I usually see that I believe that all things contain a spirit and consciousness. And that's beautiful. That's very animistic. And heathenry is, it fits well. Animism is something that fits really well into a heathen worldview. And even that, you know what I mean? Like, even that, like, I've seen so many posts online from people that see native indigenous song being sung, drummings and prayers and certain ceremonial things that get shared online. And I see, people dogging the shit out of those practices, talking about how it's devil worship or this, that. The ignorance just that comes through people online. Just, I don't know if it's just to seek attention. Maybe they're lonely at night and they don't have enough people that call them or text them or whatever. I don't know. But even the purest of things that cause no harm to others are getting ripped apart by the ignorant. So wherein do our obligations lie when it comes to stuff like that? We as heathens who do practice, however openly we decide to do so. Like I talk about having a ritual in a public park. You know, well, is it our right? Should we be able to attend a city park or a county park, a public space? Should we be able to be out in nature and enjoy one another's company and express our beliefs, our spiritual beliefs? And I'm going to say the word religious beliefs, but I'm going to say it cautiously because I understand the implications that religion has when you talk about organized religions, big religions, right? Religion is a man made thing, it's a man made construct, and it's meant to control. It's meant to put fear and to control people. I'm talking about religion or religiosity, the religious aspects of our beliefs, in the context of our relationship with the divine, not necessarily spirit. The things like Blake from Skull That Works is talking about. Everything has a spirit and a consciousness. The animistic side of things. Those are things that exist within our profane space and time. They may not be visible to the naked eye to us all the times, but they exist in our space and time. When I'm talking about the gods, the sacred, the divine, these are in sacred space and time, and therefore, to classify them in a different category, I use the term religious, right? So understand the context in which I'm using religious, right? So when pagans or heathens, however you want to label, find themselves in a space, a public space, and they want to express themselves in the religious nature of what they believe in, um, you can't just go out and start drumming and hooting and hollering and lighting a fire and doing things that are disruptive to the public, that could be seen as, red flags. It's we got to think a bit about our how we're projected, how we're presenting ourselves to the public. Because listen, like I wanted our gatherings, or I would like our gatherings to be welcoming to people who are going, wow, it looks like you guys are having a nice time, or I saw that table that you have over there with the incense and the little statues. What is that? Maybe they're curious. Maybe they see something that is spirit trying to reach them. Maybe something in their spirit is lighting a fire or sparking an interest in them to want to ask a question. So, and to be approachable and to be um, conducting ourselves in a way that brings honor to what we believe in and brings honor to our ancestors and upholds us in an honorable way. I think that's important. So to be out here just acting a fool in a public space, it's a bad look. It's not a good representation of our beliefs. However you want to classify them, or in whatever category you want to put them. Scarlet Works is noting that some people are afraid, or some people who are afraid of magic, secretly believe in magic. And same goes for other pagans. They act as if we can harm them. Yeah, like people fear what they don't understand. That's been the case for a long time. It's people are afraid of what they don't understand and what they can't explain. So, seeing a group of people who are standing around in a circle or a semicircle around an altar, and they're reciting prayers, or they're saying, or they're doing things that maybe in a language that they don't understand, it can look very intimidating and frightening even. But there's an allure, like I think you bring up a good point there, Skull. It works like people that say they don't believe in it. There's this like mystique about it, There's this interest to want to explore that side of things. So Yeah, Schizo, the entire world is going insane, and people can't live and let live, even for minor disagreements. And I blame social media. I mean, hell, here's a platform that I'm kind of moderating in a way, but I'm using a third party. I'm using a platform to put thoughts and stuff out here, and you know, people are free to express how they feel and what they want to say. Even right now, I mean, I could be going about this a totally different way, and I'm sure you look back on enough of my content, you're gonna see some wacky comments. People could just you could easily just scroll by, but no, people like to set themselves out and try to get the attention that they so desperately need, the validation. Um, that's really mostly what it's about. Um, hey there, Azure Phoenix. Great to see you here again on the live stream. They say over there on YouTube. So if you want people to learn, you have to be willing to teach. In my opinion, the unwillingness to teach and to share is a big problem in many spaces. Yeah, that's true. Schizo, she's or they're agreeing. Sorry, believe that believe and let others believe as they live or as they like. But if someone asks, I'll tell them and invite them to share with me in return. And yes, you bring up a good point there that to if you want people to learn, then you should be willing to teach. And you know, always a student. I've been heathen for 10 years roughly now, close to nearing, I guess, if I have to. I didn't like mark a calendar or whatever, but I know that I'm in my 10th year. Um, and I've been looked at in the community in my area as a teacher, and I have this platform, so people, I've even had people come up to me in person and be like, I want to call you brother because what you say means so much to me. And I'm like, I don't know you, man. I don't know you like that. Don't, like, I'm not trying to be mean, but I mean, back off, like, I appreciate that you feel that way. It's nice for you to think that that's, like there's a kinship between us, but until we get to know each other more or better, reserve that title. Please don't just use that title of kinship so casually. Know who the people you are talking to and interacting with and engaging with before you ever get to the point of wanting to, exchange titles of kinship with them. And at least understand and respect the fact that if they don't want to give you that name or that title in return, that it's not a disrespect, or it's not an insult towards you. That person could be very particular about who they bestow that title upon. So if you address them in a familial way and they don't return the favor, try not to take it seriously or personally, I should say, because it's or maybe just ask, like, hey, I've been calling you this. Does this bother you? You know what I mean? I don't care. Like, if people want to call me that, I'm not gonna. I've said it enough. I'm not gonna beat a dead horse about it. But I also stand by what I believe, and I'm not gonna just throw that title out to anybody. But in the same way, when I do encounter those people, and they're like, well, what can I call you? Oh man, I'm just Jesse. Like, and they're like, well, what about mentor? What about teacher? I'm like, listen, the title means I'm just doing something that I enjoy doing, first of all, and people like it, and so uh, you know I'm not too worried about the title thing. You know what I mean? Like I'm still learning, always a student. So I look up to people that are teachers of to me and my mentors. And if people want to look at me and see me as something like that, I'm honored, and I only wish to continue to uphold that expectation. If that's where people who come in through me or come to me and see me as such, well, then let me live up to the responsibility and to the obligation. And as you say, Azure Phoenix, right? Like, your obligation as a teacher is, or you wanting people to learn, is to teach and to be approachable and to come to it from an angle of helping and inviting them. Um, Some people don't want to learn no matter how hard you try. Yeah, I mean, like, you can, and I've run into plenty of people like that. As a skull that works is just saying, some people you can tell them everything. You can, it's that old saying, lead a horse to water. You can't make people believe something. You can't make people learn something. They have to want to learn themselves. It has to be something that they want to learn. Um, Thank you, Azure Phoenix. There, learned a lot at the Random Heathen Ramblings. It's been one of the most enjoyable things that I've done on this platform. It's a great way for me to share what I'm learning, and talk outwardly and openly, and then have some guests and stuff that come on, and we have these great dialogues. And then seeing the folks like yourselves come on here and share your thoughts too. You cannot teach someone anything that they aren't interested in knowing. They have to want to know it themselves. They have to want to learn. They have to want to be willing. They have to be willing. You know. Um, it's like, giving somebody your opinion or your thoughts. Half the time, what's the response? Oh, thanks, but I don't remember asking you. They get defensive. They get mad when you try to show care. Show interest in to the point of wanting to help. Well, let them ask for it then, I guess, is what I've come to learn. What else here? Oh, efficiency okay. Azure Phoenix says, I wonder if it's too much more difficult to have a clannish or tribal mentality in a digital age. It's different if you grow up that way, understanding it. That's a really great point. The way I grew up, even though it wasn't heathen, it was quite honestly cultish, Christian cult type stuff. Um, but it had a very strong sense of community at the tribal level. Everybody's families were very closely integrated. In our gatherings and our our time together was very close and very personal, and it was frequent. So we had a lot of interactions and dealings with one another, and we looked out for one another. People looked out for each other, and we I remember growing up, and it was like, as the least amount of dealings that we had to have with the outside world, outside of our little community there, was desirable. So the least amount of outside influence, the better. And flash forward, or fast forward all these years later into heathenry, and I start realizing, wow, this is a very regional belief system. This was a very tribally focused societal thing. People, it was small groups and small units that helped each other out in communities like that way. And so it resonated with me, and I'm like, yeah, I get that, because I kind of was raised in that sort of thing. But for people that aren't brought up in it, to be exposed to that, yeah, I fully agree that it's very difficult to integrate into something like that, having had no prior experience, because most of what we are in nowadays, and the way kids and people, young people are raised, is everything's long distance. There's no consequences for your actions. You're your own person. Love yourself, and nobody's gonna help you, and this and that, and it's very individualistic. It's not tribalistic. There's no I don't maybe say that there's no sense of community, but the sense of community is kind of jaded through in a false sense, because you look at online spaces, and oh, I got a group full of 2,000 members, or 5,000 members, or 30,000 followers, or 20,000 subscribers, or 100 million views, and blah, wow, look at me, look how important I am. Guess what, Jack? Not even 1% of those people are going to care about you if you drop off the face of the earth tomorrow. They're not going to be there for you when you need them in the real way. So it's a lost thing. But I hope that it's something that's brought up more. The way the world's going, it's going to be needed. Um, Azure Phoenix says it's hard to know what your place is and what your responsibilities are, and what standard of honor you're to uphold when it's so fragmented and scattered. Um, really great comments, by the way, Azure Phoenix. I appreciate you chiming in. Um, yeah, it is. It's hard, and that's the thing is when because if you look at it through a heathen lens, how what was honor? Like honor was something that was demanded. It was something that was upheld at the community level. It was bestowed upon you by your deeds. Your deeds determined your honor. And then the people were the ones who said, or it was upheld by the people. So if something was done that was dishonorable, it was the people recognized it, and they held each other accountable. There was accountability. There was that sense of keeping things in balance. And if you were dishonorable, if you did something that was villainous or criminal, like there was penalties to be paid, and it was we have that in place now. We have laws. Criminals are supposed to be subject to the law, and we're all subject to the law of our respective states or countries and regions, and not wherever it is that you're living. But when you break it down, you get down to that very, very close insular level of things. That governance, how the people are ordered and how the people are living is on a much smaller scale. So they don't have that sense if they're not, if they're not held up to that. They don't uphold that themselves, and if there's no shared belief in that, there needs to be a shared understanding, a shared belief. Otherwise, you're just one person doing things your way, and living a life that is based on whatever worldviews, however they're informed. It's just whatever you feel is right, whatever works for you, and nobody else is involved. Nobody else is a part of it. So it's a much different way of looking at things. Azure Phoenix is going on again, and with the great comments here. Accountability is hard to enforce. You get kicked out of the chat group. So what? Go to another chat group. Problem solved. Can we actually enforce honor anymore? On a grand scale of things, on a large scale, heathenry, it's no, not because it's never going to be this great big universal belief system. It never was that to begin with. So trying to make it that, is like trying to turn a banana into an orange. Let a banana be a banana, man. Don't try to turn it into something that it's not, and trying to you globalize heathenry, turn it into this universal belief system for all pagans, Germanic pagans, like, oh, we all believe the same thing. No. Sometimes there's things that are very specific to a certain group. Like for instance, the holy tides. Well, when are you going to do it? You're going to follow the Wiccan wheel of the year and do your, have your holidays on the Sabbats, or are you going to follow a lunisolar reckoning of time, the way that the old ways documents things were being done prior to Christianity? And are you going to keep the holidays that are documented in the sources? And are you going to do it in a historical way? And all these things. So, like, trust and loyalty. We talk about things like honor, troth, loyalty. That's another concept that is so far removed from people nowadays, even from people who you think would know better. Um, and how do you, uh, how do you enforce it? You're either going to um, have your own sets of customs with people, like in your own groups of things. You're gonna have your own sets of laws or customs that demand the upholding of such things, to the point that if it's not maintained, then there will be penalties. To pay the shield, to pay the wear guild, whatever you want to term you want to put to it. Um, that's the only way of smaller groups being able to, I think, kind of govern themselves, at that level of things. So if honor has been damaged, if loyalty has been broken, and betrayal has been, if people have been betrayed, um, then it's, you've got to pay the shield. You've got to pay the recompense. And whatever that recompense is, if the penalty for the crime is to be, you know, pay a fee, pay a penalty, then so be it. But if that penalty is you are now effectively neath, you have been outlawed now, then that's the penalty. You done messed up, Aaron. You're out. Go to Principal Oshak Hennessy. Uh, for those of you that don't understand, it's a Key and Peele reference. Go look it up. You'll know what I'm talking about. But Scaldic. Here I am, Sean Connery in the chat. Scaldic Work says that the best way is to trust the luck of those who are closest to you. Look, man, I get the sentiment, and that sounds great. Luck. Luck can come and go, man. Luck is up and down. Luck is can be strong some days and not. You know, uh, Luck has abandoned even the mightiest of kings. Um, and so to trust luck, um, I get what you're getting at. Because even those that are closest to you can be the ones that are betraying you. Speaking from experience, um, if you have someone who is a sworn brother, a kinsman, somebody who you swore an oath with, and then that person is, and when oaths are sworn, when you have that troth, that loyalty, that contract of, I will be there for you, I will back you up, I will protect your honor, I will defend your honor, I will be there for you when you need me. And then they find themselves in a place where your name or your honor is being attacked or questioned, and they don't come to your defense, they don't speak up for you, they don't defend you. That's a betrayal of trust, because that person who swore that oath, who said they would do what they were doing, have now proven to be untrustworthy. They have negated on their oath of troth, and that is an ultimate act of betrayal, man. And where you come back from that? How do you come back from that? You confront the person, or do you say, look, that's it. I'm effectively outlawing them from my life. I'm removing them from my life. I'm not gonna keeping them at arm's distance. It goes, like, it's a very famous, stanza from the Havamal that refers to a good friend. You should be a good friend, and to repay their kindness with kindness, but to a false friend, be false and repay their lies with lies, or their leasing with leasing, or their betrayal with betrayal, right? So there's this sense of reciprocity. Oh, you've betrayed me, well then effectively, up yours, buddy. Screw you. It's a it's a it's a it's a tough thing to find oneself in. Voodoo Viking responding to Skull at Works is that, what does one do if they don't have anyone around them that has the same worldview and belief? There you go, right? Because you're talking about beliefs and things that are very specific to a subset of people, or a belief system that some people have. And you can't, online, it's close enough, right? There's shared values, there's similar things. It's not always, you can't enforce it, and those online exchanges don't, it's not enough. Meant the luck of the entire group that you've built it with, and that takes time. Skull that works, building the shared luck. the luck that is contributed from every member of that group. Individual luck that is poured into the well of that tribe, of that group, of that kindred, of that unit. Everybody's sharing their own might, their own main, their own luck, and it becomes the luck of the tribe. You know, but again, I get what you're saying. Um, so okay, so yeah, Voodoo Viking says, what if you don't have anyone around you? You have no tribe or group or anyone to speak with. It's not there. At that point, it's not. The things that we're talking about here is betrayal of kinsmen, of your family, even the people who have become close to you through, whether it's marriage, whether it's through oaths being sworn, whether whatever thing it is. It's this type of thing revolves around stuff like that. So if you don't have a tribe or a group or anyone to speak with or belong to, then it's a little bit of a different dynamic, I think. Voodoo Viking says, you could find shared values in books like The Clockwork Orange or Last of the Mohicans, and it doesn't replace actual people. Yeah, I mean, you have book clubs and common interests. Those are interests. Those are there might be things about the characters or whatever that resonate with you, that resonate with other people as well. And so but I think that's a bit different than actual heathen worldviews of honor, of troth, of loyalty, of luck, of frith. The backbone, the root of heathenry is in frith, and what frith means from a societal standpoint. And it's a very deep subject. It's a thing I've talked a lot about over the years and in a lot of episodes, but it's a very frith is not just something. Frith is not the fact that we like each other, we're going to be peaceful with one another, and we've done a few ceremonies together, and so therefore we're sharing in frith. I mean, frith goes way deeper than that. Those are things that can start the bonds of frith to be established, and tying those threads together to establish that frith web. But frith is something that is much deeper metaphysically. It goes beyond just a sense of belonging, and I like you and I want to support you. There's obligation that is inherent when it comes to frith. It's I am yours, you are mine. I protect you, you protect me. Pack mentality, that tribe mentality. That's very so much about what frith is, that just doesn't seem to get appreciated so much. It's like they see this word frith, and a lot of people think that, oh, we're having a nice meal together, and we had a few ceremonies or ritual or bloat, whatever, and hail the gods and hail the ancestors, and all of a sudden we're sharing frith. Not really. It goes way deeper than that. As again, that's a start. There's things about frith that definitely involve those things that I mentioned, but where are you going to be when shit hits the fan? For me, who are my people? Who can I rely on? And then for you, can you rely on me? Am I going to be there for you when you need me? Like that's what we're talking about. Where does our loyalties lie? Sometimes you have to deal with it the best you can. I mean, yeah, that's dealing with it the best you can. Sure. I don't want to say that's a passive way of looking at it, but what is the best way that you can? So what does that mean? What can you do? Make do with what you can. Skull it works. Make do with what you have and who you are and who you have it with. Make sure that ground rules are applied to establish the peace between everyone. And yeah, like accountability. We were talking about this earlier too. And it touches on this desire, this feeling like we should be organized. Let's get our shit together, people, and let's be here. Like, yeah, because you can't have frith without that organization, without that structure. you know, um, without understanding the social constructs behind it and that involve it, right? Voodoo Viking says, yes, it's true in all dynamics. However, most of what I find is doing security on Bourbon Street and Lower Ninth Ward down there in New Orleans. Yet none of them share beliefs. We just fight, drink, and pick up strippers. Well, you hang around degenerates, that's what you're gonna get, man. And I'm not trying to talk down upon people, but that sounds like behavior of people who have no real interest to do anything constructive with their lives. Those are acts and behaviors of I mean, I'm not gonna I don't want to talk smack about people that or whatever, but I mean, come on, like that doesn't, then don't be around it. Just get away from it. If you don't want, if you want to have a relationship with people who have a better value of life and worldview of things, and then don't hang around people that want to fight, drink, and pick up hookers, strippers, whatever, ladies of the night. Yeah, ride motorcycles. Well, that's cool. I mean, you can do that and not be an idiot. Um, yeah, the motorcycle bros are true. Till Valhalla. And I'm gonna to Skull brother this and that. Yeah, yeah, they like the aesthetic, but they're not about the culture. They're not about the beliefs. Or I don't know. It's people look at the history of the Germanic people, and all they want to see is the war band type, the warrior class. Yes, man. There was that. But there was also the farmers and the farriers and the blacksmiths and the country folk that just wanted to live in peace and have their uh, beliefs just live in peace and believe what they want to believe, and peacefully. Sometimes organizing in smaller groups is just as good as larger organizations. I mean, it's the only way that heathenry can function, if as far as an organization goes, is at the smaller level. Look at the outcomes of things like the AFA, or even TAC, or even the Troth. I mean, these groups have had so many problems, man. Like, and these are supposed to be representations of heathenry in North America, or heathenry in America at least. The United States. I know they have international um, chapters or charters or whatever the hell you want to call it, but it doesn't work that way, because one group does one thing, and then it's a whole bad representation on this global organization. I don't like that in my heathenry, and I choose to not be a part of it because it doesn't align with what I think heathenry should be. So smaller is better for heathenry. I fully support and uh, agree with you there. Scholar works. Voodoo Vikings says none taken. Listen, I know who you are, Voodoo Viking, at least to the extent of we've talked back and forth online a lot. So, and I know who I'm talking to on the screen here, which is why I can be a bit more candid, I think. So thank you for understanding. There are also the people he says that have my back, and that's important. When you're in a situation like the lifestyle that you're talking about, whether it's security or any other sort of uh, type of profession that you could be hurt from other people. You got to know who your people are. I remember I worked in the prison system for over 10 years collectively, between working at a facility and transporting inmates. So between those two details, I was in corrections and prisoner extradition for about 9 years. And you've got to know who's got your back, regardless of what their lifestyle is. That's very much like a war band culture. That's tribalism almost in a way, but it's like the war band culture, the warrior cult. um So whether or not they're into the belief of paganism, of heathenry, you have a culture. You have a warband culture that you're connected with, and that type of lifestyle can cultivate its own subculture amongst its people. So Voodoo Viking has questions. Let me ask something. Driving trucks and security is the only thing I understand. I can't wrap my head around computers. So head first mentality and isolation is all I know. How do you go to the next? How do we what? How do we escape those things when you're honestly good at and understand? I mean, how do you escape it? You find a way. I mean, you mentioned two things. Truck driving and security. Okay, so you're good at driving big vehicles and making sure people are not doing things and not going places where they shouldn't, and being that sort of bouncer security um, detail type person. You know, and you can't convince me that you're not good at anything else. Maybe computers, but I'm good at computers, and that's because that's the field I've been working in for 8 years. I work in IT. I'm not good at home care, like home health care. Like I'm not a caretaker. I can take care of myself, but I'm not the type of person that can take care of other people. My wife is, she can't really stand computers. She doesn't, deal with it too much. She doesn't like it, but her passion, her love is in healthcare, home healthcare, caregiving, because it's what she's done for a long time of her life. And that's what she's done for many, many years. So if you're good at something and you understand it and that's your calling, find a way to make it work, right? If the detail that you're on is bad for your mental health, pivot, find another detail, find another way of being able to serve your purpose without compromising your integrity. You know, Scarlet works there. Backs up. Let me back up for a second here because he had a comment. Yeah, was it? Oh, the troth to keep seem. Yeah, the troth seems to keep more of a research center these days more than actual belief organization. Yeah, and I would, I don't know. I wouldn't. Maybe there's some good stuff out there that they're doing research wise. I can't say because I don't go to them as a resource for much. Sorry to say. Um, Azure Phoenix is back. I think some people aren't really into religion in general. Fair point. Maybe too much responsibility to others is a turnoff. Very keen point. Like we talk about the responsibility, the obligation that comes with things like frith. It's too structured. It's too regimented. It's too ordered. You know, it makes people feel too boxed in. And a lot of people don't like that. A lot of people don't like what order has to offer, and structure has to offer. And I think that there's a really fine line between having order and having structure and knowing how to apply it in the different contexts that it exists. Because you can have order at your job, your place of employment, what you do to earn a paycheck and earn your living, and your lifestyle at your job, the culture that surrounds the job is different every place you go. Every profession has its own different culture, and even companies have their own culture. And then you go home in your home life. Your home life has its own how you interact with your family, or how you act with people outside of work. And then you have perhaps maybe stuff like the religious side of things or the spiritual side of things, where you have a community of people who you interact with at that degree and at that level. You're not going to behave the same way. Take this and do the same things that you would do at your place of employment, at your job, and do that at home. I mean, if it works, I guess maybe then fine. But I've not been able to uh, do that. A matter of fact, it bites me in the ass if I try to be, well, this is how we do it at work, and I'm gonna take that rigidness or that structure or that you know concept of dealing with people, and I'm gonna bring it into my home life. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work well that way because it's a different culture. So maybe with religious stuff, when there's this sense of order, when there's a sense of structure, it has to be done this way, it has to be done that way. Maybe it feels too much like a job to people, and they don't want to feel that obligation. They don't want to feel that sense of, oh, I have to do it this way. Now, I would venture to say that there's a fine line. Uh, if you're not ordered, and if you're not structured, and everything's all willy nilly, flying off the seat of our pants. Um, we're not preparing ourselves for anything. We're not conditioning ourselves for times when things could be really rough. So if all we're doing is just skating by and hoping for the best, and, oh, if I need you, I'll call you. Like, no, man. Like, let's order ourselves appropriately. Let's put let's snap to. Let's get some construction going on here. Let's build ourselves up, and let's all understand what our jobs and responsibilities are, and let's uphold ourselves to those responsibilities. Let's hold ourselves accountable. I'll hold myself accountable. You hold me accountable. I'll hold you accountable. We hold ourselves accountable. And like you say, Azure Phoenix, not a lot of people like that or want to embrace that lifestyle. Um, so Voodoo Viking, yeah, I mean, sorry to cut your comment there off, Voodoo Viking. Things don't pay enough. Listen, you can make money anywhere, doing almost anything, and not even break the law doing it. But yeah, we could probably get you do a live stream or something. This one is getting near its end. We've been going for almost an hour and a half tonight. A lot of great discussion, by the way, folks, and thank you so much for being here. We can definitely work something out maybe for next month for you to come on and pick this back up. Scarlet Works, back to Azure Phoenix's comment, says religion is mostly seen in a negative light because of the faiths like Christianity and Islam, who use the belief as a way to force their views upon others. That whole sense of control. So that's a keen observation. And it does. We, I'll say personally, like I've seen that happen in heathenry too, on a very smaller scale, but I've seen that tendency, the propensity, leak in to heathenry and have it become something that is like trying to dictate what others believe and what others do. Like, oh, you have to do it this way. It's or else. In an effort to control, not in an effort to educate or an effort to teach or to maintain structure and to maintain order for oneself and for one's group, but in a sense and through a context of, I want to be in control and I want to control all these people, and that have them look at me as a certain figure head of authority or something like that, and have this whole ego about it. It's that approach I don't agree with. Yeah, Voodoo Viking agrees with you there too. Scarlet Works, and it's a general consensus. I think we understand that the majority of organized religions, the bigger religions, have only done. There's some good people amongst them, but the organizations themselves have only done effectively just instilled fear and control. Yeah, my way or the highway. Shout out Fred Durst. I'ma do things my way. It's my way or the highway. Okay. But like you said, okay, so Voodoo Viking says, yeah, but like the New Orleans lifestyle, too much wine, women, and song, rub shoulders with the upper crust, the lobbyists, mayor, politicians, learn the inside. How it all works. It's New Orleans. It's almost like the Vegas of the Bayou. You know what I'm saying? It's got that just nonstop party atmosphere because of Bourbon Street and Mardi Gras, and then just a lot of that. So it's like a smaller Vegas of the Bayou. It's Swamp Vegas, I guess they call it. I don't know if they do, but I'll call it that. Um, yeah, if there are no core beliefs and values, Azure Phoenix says, if there's no core beliefs and values, then there's nothing to rally around or unite us. Exactly. You know, it's there's a fine line, and it can be done rightly. Um, and you got some people that agree with you there. Voodoo Viking agrees with you there, Azure. It's a fine line. Um, and the right people should be in place for leading those initiatives. You don't want people that are just here to be called something. Like I've seen I've seen so many groups pop up, man, and they're intermingling titles. You know, you've got President so and so, and then you've got High Vulva this person, and you've got High Droton over here, and then Chieftain so and so, and Jarl this, and like you're blending names and titles from different cultures that don't even, they never spoke to one another. They had nothing to do with one another culturally. So you're like, it's just like, okay, what are you doing? What? Why are you giving titles to people? Titles of authority, authoritative titles, authoritative titles to people who have no freaking idea what a Droten is. You got an organization that you have a Droten, Drighton, whatever. But I'm going to use the Saxon pronunciation, the Droten. And then you have somebody else called the Chieftain. Listen, idiot, you know that it means the same thing. It's same thing. You have two people carrying the same quote unquote title, and you've got one called Chieftain and another one called Droten, and you're just calling them the same thing in a different language. Sorry, that's my rant. It's silly. Nola is the Palace Versailles, or Versailles. Yeah, the Palace Versailles and Rome wrapped into one. Yeah, that's a good. The pomp and the debauchery and the this and the that, right? So it's a good analogy. Azure is wary of bringing my kids to gatherings because I don't know what the hosts believe. And if it aligns with our beliefs, it's hard to know where to go. Gosh, I hear you. I hear you so loud and clear. Said I can't. They say I can't do 2 years of research on eBay what is it? Every organization to see if they won't teach my kids some BS. It's unfortunately like one of those things where you got to kind of I don't want to say you have to go and check it out for yourself. Like you got to, see it for yourself to determine it, because people can put anything they want to online. They can say whatever they want to about their beliefs and how they approach, and then the way they act in person is totally different. I always tend to lean into the fact that you're going to get the truest sense of anybody's personality, intentions, purpose, what they're doing by being in person with them. You're going to get a sense of where they're coming from almost immediately from being in person with them. You're going to get that initial feeling, especially if you're a parent. Your intuition is super strong. You know what's right for your kids, and it's smart of you to be so cautious about bringing them to a place that may or may not align with what you want them to be raised with, and believe in. You don't want to put them in a position of being misfed information or being exposed to something that doesn't align with what you're believing. I would just say, just my personal opinion is, really the only way you're going to know that for sure is do what you can research wise, but then go and check it out for yourself. Maybe an event or repeat events that happen in your area. Maybe you go and do a recon of it. Maybe you get grandma and grandpa or a friend or whatever to watch the kids while you go check it out. Maybe you do a solo run, or you and your partner go and leave the kids with a trusted babysitter or something to say, hey, we have a family and we want to make sure that we check this out before bringing our kids to it. Maybe you've already done that too. I don't know. You know, you didn't ask for my thoughts or opinions on it, but I respect that you have their safety and their well being in mind. So it was just a thought that I thought I'd throw out there. Yeah, Scarlet Works lives in the Silicon Valley of the South. So yeah, we know. Oh, Huntsville, man. Huntsville, Alabama. Um, Voodoo Viking says that they see heathenry rising to levels that people don't want to begin to believe, creating inclusive groups where we can reach out when whoever needs anything 24/7, like the orders we had 100 plus years ago. I mean, it's great to have the tools like social media. I mean, I'll just say, like for example, today there's an elder of our community up here who had some life changing news dropped on them today. Um, you know, and it didn't take long for people to get in touch with others and find ways of coming to support. Like after this live stream, I'm gonna get in touch with them again to check in on them because I was talking to them earlier and I said, I'm just making sure you're okay and wanted to check in, but I'd like to continue talking. I have this thing I'm doing tonight, but afterwards. Um, so you know, having that. But it goes back to you know, yes, there's inclusivity involved, but it's more of networking and building that group with people. You know, it does have to be inclusive to a degree. The inclusivity of things nowadays is becoming like the lines are becoming so muddled. Um, you know, it's a touchy thing to a lot for a lot of people to approach, but having the right group of people, the right inclusions, um, to help with things, you know, and to help get people the aid that they're looking for that they need. You do have a decent heathen group down there, Skull, that works. I know you got the Ravenwood Meadery, um, but despite not wanting to gather in small tribes or groups, you got a good population. Same thing up here, man. Like there's definitely there's a bit of a mix. You know, there's a lot of pagans and other folks and heathens that have a group that they like to call their heathen home, and then others that are just kind of nomadic and they come to events here or there and everywhere. And um, so yeah, I get what you're saying. Scholarly Works replying to Azure Phoenix says, I believe the same issue goes if you would take them to a Christian church if that was what you believed in terms of bringing children around and making sure that what they're being exposed to is in alignment with what you want them to be exposed to. And as Azure Phoenix says, a help network is a great idea in the digital age, like a phone tree. You know, area maps would be helpful, but people can't go on being so cloistered if they want a community. Yeah, you gotta, you know, it's good to have your roots established, but don't forget the roots don't just grow down; they grow out. You know, they spread out. They go deeper. They spread. They have to in order to support the growth that's happening up here. So it's one thing to be aware of. You know. Let's see what else we got. More from Voodoo Viking lawyers, doctors, contractors. Oh my, we build and fully take care of our own. Yeah, I mean, you know, look, it's what makes the world go around. You know, you everybody has a job, everybody has a purpose. Great commentary, folks. Thank you again for being here and taking the time out of your evening to want to talk about this stuff. I love seeing the engagement and the talking about things. Azure Phoenix says, maybe I'm being dense, but I see very few women involved in community building. Aren't we supposed to be the frith weavers? I'm weaving the hell out of my frith over here. Okay, keen observation, and that is a very valid point. You know, I'm not sure. I, I recognize the screen name, and forgive me because it's been so long. I don't know geographically where you are, um, but yeah, like a lot of what I see are male led efforts. You know, now there are some, I know there are definitely some in our area who there are like groups for women, pagan groups for women, exclusively, where it's just for the ladies. And then there's stuff that's just for the men too, but then there's the co-ed mixture of family friendly, things. Um, but yeah, no, I think it's a very interesting point to raise there, Azure Phoenix. That where are the Frith Weavers? Where are the ones who, um, with the right, you know, with the right resources, are creating these hearth spaces for the folk to gather around. These safe places, these community centers, these let's say hearth fires, um, to gather at, whether it's a home or whether it's an online space, and then you got have different things at different locations here and there. Um, the work should be, I think it's a shared effort, but I think it's a great observation that you're making. Um, I see some of it in my area. I do see a lot of things being done by women, um, and it's good work that they're doing. Um, so I hope that maybe this helps kind of raise that attention. Maybe this live will reach the ears and the hearts of some women in the area, right, ladies? Get out there and then get to weaving. I don't know, but thank you for saying so, and thank you for bringing up that observation. All right, let's see. We'll take a couple more comments here, and then we're going to wrap things up for the night. Yeah, Scarlet Works needs to get going. I've work in the morning. First paid rune reading client at 5 o'clock. Well, any advice before you go there, Scarlet Works? Meditate. You know, go into that with your heart open, but realize that what the runes can say might not be easy for you to deliver. Um, so I hope that it goes well for you. I hope that your first rune reading for a client, uh, or the first rune reading that you are being compensated for, at 5 o'clock goes well. And yeah, just gosh, like do some grounding, maybe. Get your skin to earth, get your bare feet on the earth. Like that's always a great preface, I think, to any sort of spiritual work. Is absorb that energy from Mother Yord. So good luck with that. Hope it goes well. Um, Thanks, sir. Right there. Western Oklahoma, smack off the 40. All right, cool. Happy to help anyone that finds anything that they're needing at Frith. Shoot an email in case anyone needs to get in touch. Yeah, definitely. And anybody else that watches this now or later, the email address. You can go to my Linktree link that's posted down below, and you'll find my email option to email me there. But it's midgardmusingstn@gmail.com, because this podcast will get aired on the audio platforms this week. So I know a lot of folks that won't be watching this are only going to be listening. So yes, please definitely feel free to email me with any questions, or if you're in an area that you feel, Western Oklahoma, if any of my listeners are in that area, drop me an email. Maybe I can, be the liaison, contact point between people to connect. So thank you, Azure Phoenix, for being here tonight from Western Oklahoma and sharing. Azure Phoenix sends congrats to Skaldic on the rune reading, and Skaldic works, or sorry, Voodoo Vikings is have a great night. And yeah, everybody, thank you so much. We're gonna go ahead and wrap this episode up, this live stream up for the night. So thank you to Scarlet Works, Voodoo Viking, Azure Phoenix, Schizo, who was on here before, and there was some other folks. I believe Mike. Yeah, Michael Thacker was one of the first ones to pop in and watch on the live, and everybody else who's just watching and hasn't decided to comment or anything. I appreciate your viewership, appreciate your support. If you haven't yet become a subscriber to Midgard Musings YouTube channel, good night to you as well, Skull That Works. Please go ahead and subscribe. Follow me on all my socials, Facebook, Instagram. I do a weekly podcast, Random Heathen Ramblings, on Spotify, on all the audio platforms. The full video versions that are not live streams only get released on my Patreon page. That's patreon.com/MidgardMusings. It's scrolling down on the bottom of your screen here, but for the listeners later on this week, just as a reminder, most of us are 40. Still don't know what we're doing. Yeah, I just hit the big 4-0 last year, and I feel like you know, I'm getting my second win. I think I'm starting to get some momentum here, but who knows? I mean, I'm just faking it till I make it. I'm doing the best I can with what I got, and loving the journey. So thank you all very much for being here. Thank you to all my guests. Thank you to all of my supporters. Everybody that watches my show, listens. However you engage, however you choose to be engaging is greatly appreciated. Just keep safe, everybody. Thank you, Azure Phoenix. Y'all, thank you so very much. Have a great week. And until we talk to each other again, may the gods continue to notice you, and may your ancestors smile upon you. And we'll see you in the next one.